Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar entitled The Importance of Congruence in Public Speaking. And I use the term public speaking in the broader term, so the importance of congruence when you're training, when you're facilitating, when you're leading a team meeting, when you're doing a keynote presentation. I think that it's a subtle thing, this term, this concept of congruence, but it's also very important. And an audience will pick up pretty quickly when you're not congruent. So in the 30 minutes I have with you, I'm going to share with you some simple steps that you as a speaker or a trainer or a facilitator that you can do to make sure you are congruent with your message, with your audience. So good morning, Peter Dew's my name, and I'm a public speaking trainer and coach, a keynote speaker, and my passion is helping people unlock their potential through confident and effective speaking, so you can share your message, your passion, your idea with your communities, your clients, your groups. Welcome. Welcome, Anna. We've just got underway. It's a small group today, but that is fine. The importance of congruence in public speaking. Those of you who haven't done webinars before, please ask questions as we go. You have a little dialogue box that you can type into at any time. Just type in a question or even a comment. Take notes as we go. I do record these webinars and make them available to those people who have registered. So if you don't catch everything, you can always review the recording and you'll get the content and the answers. Please ask questions during the webinar, but also ask questions after the webinar. Send me an email. I'll just toggle back. So there's my email address, peter@peterdew.com.au. I'm welcome to questions relating to this webinar or your own circumstances. Participate and think and apply the knowledge. I think the best way to use knowledge from a webinar is think of a previous webinar, a previous presentation, a previous workshop where you've been the presenter. Is there anything you'd do differently as a result of what you're going to learn today? On the other side, think of a presentation you've got coming forward, a training that you're going to run in a week, in 2 weeks. What might you incorporate differently to elevate it to the next level? That's how you take away the learning, not just by saying that's nice or that's interesting. It's about embedding it and doing something different. So what might you do differently? So welcome everyone. I've got Anna, I've got Desiree, I've got Karen, I've got Sheridan, we've got Sarah, and we've got Stephen. So a small group, as I said. We've just got underway, and I'll toggle back to the first slide, the importance of congruence in public speaking. Welcome. So this is the agenda, and these are the 5 things that will help you be congruent. Number 1 is your composure when you get before that audience. Number 2 is your conviction around your message. The number 3 is what is your body, your nonverbal, saying about you? What's it saying about you on stage? What you do before and after, so your actions, are they congruent? And really important that the message that you give continues after you've finished the presentation. And this concept of authenticity. 5 simple things that we can all do that'll make us come across as really congruent with our message, with who we are, with our values, so that the audience knows that you are the genuine deal. You believe in your own message, you're honest, you're truthful, and you're trustworthy. You're not a snake oil salesman, because often in our training and our presentation, we're asking people to change, to adopt a new way of thinking, to come and follow us. if you want that traction, if you want that buy-in, congruence is so very important. Composure. When you get before an audience, we're often nervous. We're often worrying about what do other people think of us. And I often talk about this thing called FOWOT. Fear of what others think of us. We really need to get over FOWOT. We need to really not worry about what other people think of us, because in reality, what you think of me today, and while I can't see you and I can't speak to you, what I think of people in my audience is none of your business. And what you're thinking of me is none of my business. So to devote time, energy, and worry about what if you don't like me, what if I muck up, what if I forget what I'm going to say, is a waste of energy and moving your focus from your audience, away from your audience, to on you. It's about your ego. So composure is something that we can fake. We can fake our confidence. We can stand upright, we can breathe, we can smile. We can do those things that make us look confident. And the metaphor, and this is for myself because I do some keynote speaking, above the water, we've got that beautiful duck, that beautiful swan, gliding effortlessly. Below the water, we've got the legs churning back and forth. In my tummy, when I go on a keynote, I've got the butterflies, I've got the nervous, but it's above the water. This is what the audience sees that you can fake. It's called your composure. So you can go on stage, stand upright, smile, look confident. Don't frown, don't show that fear, don't grip the lectern and do white knuckle fever. If you're sweating, yes, me, I don't have hair. I may have to wipe the sweat off my forehead. And often there are those spotlights that you're seeing there on a big stage. It is quite hot, but I would certainly not be wearing a coat and would probably not have a tie just so that I don't get hot and sweaty. I want to look confident, because inwardly what's happening for me doesn't really matter. As long as I'm present for you, I focus on what I'm there for, which is to serve you, and my composure demonstrates that I want to be there. I want to be there for you. I want to help you. If I can help one person move from a place of being stuck to a place of seeing light at the end of the tunnel, a way forward, if I can do that, then I've helped someone. I've helped someone. So the composure requires that you look confident, you walk on the stage confident, you do the things that you would coach someone who's about to walk on stage, what they would do to look good. I've mentioned many times the TED Talk by Amy Cuddy, and that's about your body language determines who you are. Amy Cuddy, C-U-D-D-Y. Excuse the writing with the mouse, Amy Cuddy. That's just a TED Talk. I think it's the second or third most watched TED Talk of all time. She talks about faking it until you become it. Composure, you can fake. Don't fake your content. Don't make up answers to questions. Don't pretend you know your audience if you don't. Do pretend that you are composed. Do pretend that you're calm and confident. You can do that. This will help you be congruent with your message. All right. Conviction. I don't think you need to be really angry and fire and fury and thumping fists up and down and pointing at people. But conviction is simply this. Because you're asking people to change, you're asking people to follow you, to adopt a new policy, to change the way they do things, depending whether you're training or you're doing a pre-start meeting or a safety meeting or an education session. Do you believe what you're saying? Do you believe in your own message? If you do not believe in what you're saying, why would I buy your message? So the saying we put with this is that the first sale, think of speaking as a sale. You're selling information, you're selling knowledge, you're selling ideas, you're selling a new way forward, change management. The first sale must be to yourself. Don't be a snake oil salesman. Do you believe in what you are selling? I believe that everyone can be a great public speaker. So many people I work with, they work in the disability, in the carers field, in the health, in the well-being. They want to motivate people. They want to change the world and make it a better place. They believe that. And my belief is they can do that through great public speaking. They can learn to deal with their nerves. They can learn to be effective, influential, and persuasive. That's my personal belief. And I will continue coaching people and helping people, even though they may do a presentation and they may report that they didn't enjoy it. It wasn't any good. But my belief, my conviction is everyone can learn this skill of public speaking. What's your message? Do you believe it? Are you teaching people to suck eggs just because you think they should or you're told to? Here's the thing that I think is really tough. And it's more around, let's say, in the workplace. And an example is if you are a human resource manager and the CEO or the director tells you to go out and tell everyone there's going to be redundancies, there's going to be downsizing, there's going to be restructuring, and you as HR manager think that this is not the right way forward, that this is not a good move, and you don't agree with it, when you go out and start those presentations around redundancies, around helping people transition, and you yourself feel that it's not the right choice, you're going to have a difficult time selling that message because you don't have conviction. Perhaps the CEO needs to do that change management discussion. If he's the one who's made the decision to downsize, to restructure, and he thinks it's the way to bring that company back to profitability, return shareholders, then maybe he should be having that message. You've seen a lot of press around banks and their messages and the way they've been working. Clearly, what they say and what they do to their customers and their conviction are not congruent. All right, I'm going to pause for a moment before I move on. Any questions? I'm going to pause for a moment. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Stephen. Stephen's asked the question, what if it is your job to do a message that's unpopular and you don't agree with it? I guess that's tough. The reality is you have a choice and you can sell that message. You can go out and do that change management, but you're not aligned, you're not congruent, you don't believe it, and understand that it may not go down well. But you're going through the motions to keep your job, to keep employment so you can put food on the table. That's fair enough. I do understand that. But in terms of being an influential and a persuasive message and getting people to buy your new change, your new policy, if you don't believe it, the change management process probably won't go very well. And then, unions will get involved and there'll be conflict and you'll have to do mediation. So I'm not saying jump ship resign, but understand your ability to sell that message to the staff, if you're not aligned, may be compromised because of the lack of conviction yourself. And you could let the powers up know, you could let the CEO know, I don't agree with this. I'm philosophically opposed to this. I'm happy to go out and do the training, hold the meetings, but I just want you to know I'm opposed. So I think people may perceive that. It may be better if you were to do this session yourself. So that would be one way of handling that. Non-verbal alignment. Your body speaks so loudly, I cannot hear what you're saying. Ralph Waldo Emerson, distinguished author and academic from Harvard University. Your body speaks so loudly, I cannot hear what you're saying. So this is about congruence. If your body language doesn't echo, amplify, is not in line with what you're saying, unfortunately, the body language wins. The body language trumps and overrides those words that you say. So it's really good to have a baseline and understand, how do people perceive you? Do they see you as passive? Do they see you as aggressive? Are you seen as approachable, or is you seen as credible? Because if your non-verbals are not aligned, are not congruent with the words, you may not get the traction, you may not get the message that you want. I often demonstrate this. It's a really simple example, and I'm kind of hoping that you know that I love helping people find their voice, speak more confidently. It's one of my passions. Yesterday I was in Perth doing a workshop, thinking and speaking off the cuff. Wednesday I was down in Bunbury doing a workshop with a small group of people there. It's always nice to go to Bunbury. And Monday I was in Hope Downs 1, about an hour north of Newman, doing some work for Rio Tinto. This is what I do, and I love it. So sometimes I start my presentations like this. Good morning, everyone, and I'm really excited and pleased to be here on this webinar. And we're going to have a really great time, and I'm going to share lots of information that I'm really passionate about. Now, excuse me, this is just a webinar and you can only hear my voice. Imagine seeing me in my non-verbals. I've shut them down as well, so there's no body language, as well as the flattening the voice, the total uninterest. While the words remain authentic, honest and true, I love doing what I do, my body language completely, and some people laugh at me, completely derails what I've said. An example that's in our relatively recent political history is Prime Minister Julia Gillard. Very clever lady. I don't think she enjoyed the popularity, the confidence and the connection of the Australian people that she deserved as Prime Minister. Our first female Prime Minister, magnificent achievement, but ridiculed and given quite a hard time at some stage. Now, one of her non-verbal traits, and if you watch any of the YouTube videos, you'll see it quite often, and as she's being interviewed, is she bobs her head up and down. A little bit of a chook. And this is what we call really, really approachable. Hey guys, I'm really happy to be here. We're going to have a great time. So nice that you could make it. And I want to share some of my messages, my policies, my ideas with you. When you want to be credible and when you want to send information, you need to move from approachable to being more credible, to being more assertive. And that means keeping the head still and flattening the voice. So this is where your non-verbals can derail, white ant, dilute your message. Are your non-verbals congruent and aligned with what you're saying? The eye contact. You can just imagine this lady here. saying the words, trust me, I wouldn't sell you a lemon. Trust me, I wouldn't sell you a bad policy, as she looks away. This gentleman's obviously lacking confidence. On stage, fidgeting, fiddling. We call this preening, playing with your hair, not that I have any, just getting your collar right, polishing the shoes on your back of your trouser leg, which is I had to do at boarding school when they did inspection. You do that quick polish. Don't do any of those on stage. It's non-verbal cues that give you away. This gentleman here, he looks quite confident, but he's approachable. Palms up, he's approachable. Some stage, when he's talking about the data, he probably needs to turn his hand down, flatten his head, and become credible as he talks about what are we going to do about this fall in productivity or this increase in absenteeism, depending what his data is talking about. Quick question for all of you. What is your default, your baseline nonverbal communication? Are you aware of what people say about how you look when you walk on stage, when you walk into a meeting, when you get before a group of people? I'm just going to pause for a moment while you just type in some responses. Do you know what your baseline is? Thanks, Sarah. Some people say I look a little bit nervous. So that goes back to the first point, your composure. If you can do the things, and when they say that, do you know specifically, Sarah, what it is that makes you look nervous? Is it, are you doing fidgeting with your hands? Are you doing a little bit of a dance? Because here's the thing with nervousness, people won't hear the quiver in your voice and they won't see a little shake in your hands. And even if your palms are sweaty, they won't see that. So a lot of nervousness we can hide. So if someone says to you, Sarah, you look a little bit nervous, there must be something that you're doing that's quite obvious. And it could be, the fidgeting, the playing with the tie, as that gentleman is in the picture. Find out next time what is it specifically that you do that indicates that you're a little bit nervous. Okay, Stephen, I sometimes use and so people think I'm unsure of what I'm saying. So is non-verbal. There's no content. The pause, the sound of your voice, the rise and fall, the increasing your volume, the decreasing your volume is part of that non-verbal. So there's the body language, there's your facial expressions, and there's what happens in your voice. So, yeah, pause is the antidote to and pause makes you sound intelligent, makes you look confident if you're prepared to stay there. And me as an older man, my mind goes blank more and more, and I just smile and stand there and say nothing. Because here's the thing, you don't know what I'm going to say next. And if I don't let you know that I've forgotten or had a brain drain, I will recover 99% of the time. So I've got some other comments here. When you asked that question, thanks Karen, I wrote it down immediately. I see myself as looking unsure and comfortable, but I'm told I am peer composed. That is brilliant. So here's the truth. And this is why feedback is so valuable. If you think you've done a good job, you think you've really nailed your presentation, and the audience thinks you've sucked, you've sucked. If you think you've bombed, you've forgotten half your content, you're a nervous wreck, and the audience loved you, you have nailed your presentation. So Karen, you need to silence that self-critic in the ear that talks to you and welcome that feedback in. So the people say that you appear composed, then you appear composed. And you need to run that program in your mind, and now you can focus on content and focus on being present and responding to the audience's needs because you look composed in their eyes. That's faking your composure. You can be, if I can use a term, you can be shitting yourself while looking really confident. And so Desiree, I feel myself blush immediately, but then I settle and breathe before commencing. Great. Here's the thing. Do people see the blush? Because 9 out of 10 times, the little shake, the quiver, and the blush, people don't see. I do have one client who does go beetroot red. There's nothing they can do about it. They've now moved on and they're very confident and they train daily and they start their presentation by announcing, so thanks for inviting me today. By the way, my face goes bright red. Please don't worry about it. There's nothing I can do about it. It's a physiological response. Once they've announced it, they don't worry about it. And Sheridan, what about hand gestures? I've heard I'm quite animated when I present and it can be distracting. All right, I'm just going to back a bit. So hand gestures. Hand gestures are really important. They add to what you're saying. They help people think outside the square. They link and they connect. So these babies you need to use. But here's the thing. What I've been doing is I've been freezing my gestures. In other words, I make the gesture, whatever that is, and I freeze it. Bouncing your hand up and down in time with what you're saying is distracting. Malcolm Turnbull thinks he's conducting an orchestra, and every time he speaks, he has to flap his hands up and down. So this is noise. The thing is, Sheridan, your gestures are really important. But are they adding to what you're saying, or are they just flapping around and around, which just becomes distracting? So your nonverbal vocabulary and your nonverbal intelligence, you can work on that. You can work on that. All right, thanks for those comments. Thanks for those comments. So now I feel equal. I've bagged Julia Gillard from Labor. Now I've bagged Malcolm Turnbull from Liberal. So I'm, trying to be politically neutral. Both of them could do better things from a nonverbal perspective to be more congruent and more effective. I've noticed Malcolm Turnbull more and more, the cameras, they're just grabbing his head because underneath the table here, and you can't see my hands, they're flapping up and down and the cameras are getting distracted. So they're doing more and more shoulder shots of Malcolm Turnbull when they interview him. All right, need to move on quickly because I got bogged down in that. Your actions are congruent. This is before your presentation and after your presentation. If I'm going to follow up with resources, let me send you a copy of all my books in my workshop, then I need to do that. So it's kind of walking the talk. So what you're asking people to do you do that yourself? The financial planner who tells you do not invest in depreciating assets, who drives a BMW that cost him $75,000. And when he drives out, it's only worth $60,000. The time management guru who starts late or who goes overtime. Sorry, I've just got a little bit more content to go. Do you mind if we go, 5 minutes past? I'm not a time management guru, so forgive me if I go a few minutes past. Make sure your actions echo what you do before the pre-workshop onboarding service that I do. I stay at Accor Hotel, so this is the Ibis and the Mercure, and they always send me an email 5 days before going to Adelaide, Melbourne, wherever, Karratha, the weather, what's on, what shows are showing at Melbourne theatres. It's a really great experience, and I haven't even started my stay. And afterwards, they check that everything was okay. That's your actions being congruent with the message you say. And number 5, authenticity. Yeah, don't be fake. Fake your confidence, but don't fake your content. Who you are on stage needs to be who you are off stage. Do you come across as genuine? Do you come across as being authentic? I don't try and be a punce. I don't try and, I can speak better than this. I can put a plum in my mouth and I can speak using the Queen's English absolutely beautifully, as you're now looking at me and thinking, who is this punce, as I adopt my radio quality voice and I become really fake. Because you're going to have a chat to me at morning tea or afternoon tea in the workshop. You're going to bump into me down the street, and if who I am off stage is not who I am on stage, I'll have a credibility mismatch. Who's the real Peter? Is this just a performance? Yet when he's off stage, it's completely different. It doesn't mean I don't amplify my performance on stage in 150 people. You need the headset, you need bigger gestures, but I'm not going to use fancy language. I'm not going to become pompous and proper. And if you're a speaker who walks around with your hand in your pocket at work, in everyday life, I don't mind if you bring your hand in your pocket when you walk on stage. It's not a recommended thing to do, but I will never tell someone not to put their hand in their pocket if that's genuinely who they are. There's your 5 ways to be more congruent as a speaker trainer. Be composed, and we've seen from those comments, some of you feel a little bit nervous, but you're looking good, so that's composure. Conviction, believe your message. Non-verbal agreement, grow your gestural vocabulary. Be aware of your baseline, what your body says about you when you walk into that job interview, when you walk on stage. Make sure your actions before, during, and after your workshop, your facilitation, your presentation, make sure your actions are congruent with your message, and just be authentic. Just be authentic. I've got some workshops coming up. These are on my website. I'm not going to spend much time. Perth in July. We've got Darwin coming up in October. Looks like we're coming up to Karratha in October as well. And so, yeah, if I can be of any assistance to you, in-house workshops, keynote presentations at conference, let me know. And just remember, are you congruent when you speak, train, when you ask people to follow you, to change and to adapt to a new way of doing things? Your congruence will really build that trust, that rapport, that belief, that honesty that what you're saying is what people should do. Please email me any further questions, and I encourage you all to go out there and step up, speak, and change your communities, change your worlds. Bye for now.